I'm Anil Kumar, sharing with you a question from my subscriber. Is based on combination of two absolute functions. The question here is, find maximum or minimum for the following combination of absolute functions. F of x equals to absolute value of x plus 1 plus 2x minus 1. Now, there are a couple of ways to solve such questions, and I'm really not sure what type of curriculum the student is in. So I'll assume that the student has knowledge of calculus or does not have, right? So we'll provide a solution without using calculus. Okay, so that is the base here. So we'll just take it as a normal function and try to find how to get maximum or minimum value of such a function. What you could do is make a table of values and sketch the function, right? So what we will do here is kind of make a table of values and then we'll see what do we get. So x plus 1 basically is an absolute function which let's say starts from here. If x is 0, it is 1, and as we increase on both the sides, if it is 0, then it is of course 1. So let me just plug in the values here. Let's say these are the x values. Let's take very few values. Let's say minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0. Okay, 1. Now, since this part of the function is 0 for half, I would like to include a value half here. Is it okay? Normally, I would take 1 and 2. So I'll just take half 1 and 2. So let's calculate the values for absolute value of x plus 1 for these values. So it is always positive. Minus 3 plus 1 is minus 2. So we get 2 here. Minus 2 plus 1 will be minus 1. So absolute value is plus 1. That gives you 0. For 0 it will be 1. And for half, let me write 0.5. It will be 1.5. For 1 it will be 2. And for 2 it will be 3. Correct? Now let me rewrite the values for 2x minus 1. Let's say 2x minus 1. So if I plug in minus 3, it becomes minus 6. Minus 6 minus 1 is minus 7, which gives me 7. For minus 2, it is minus 4. Minus 5 makes it 5. So you just plug in the values. Minus 2 plus 3, 0 will give me 1. And then 0.5, we are saying will give us 0, right? So half 1 minus 1. 1 gives me 1 and 2 gives me 4 minus 1 as 3. So these are our values. Now what will be the function f of x? That is, when you add them up, you get 7 plus 2 is 9, 5 plus 1 is 6, then we get 3, 2, 1.5, 2 plus 1, 3, 3 plus 3 as 6. Now clearly from these values, we do get a minimum value of 1.5 and it occurs at half. Do you see that? So we could write our answer as minimum will be at x equals to half. And minimum value is 1.5. Is it okay? So that is one way we can definitely do it. And if you sketch this function as per what we were doing, you will see that this is your function which is absolute value of x plus 1. And this 2x minus 1, as you saw, is actually 0 at half. So it's somewhere here. Let me use a different ink. It is 0 at half, right? And at 0. It has a value of 1, which is this point. So it just goes kind of like this. Do you see that? So it's like a steeper graph. Now, when you combine these two, that is, this is absolute value of 2x minus 1, the result is shown. Let me highlight the result, which is shown here. So when you add these functions, what you get is this value. So at 0.5, it is actually 1.5, somewhere here, and then it just rises up. So I'm not drawing an exact diagram here, but I'm trying to show you that it is minimum at this point, and the value is 1.5. So that is how you could easily do. And those who have taken up calculus, they will understand that for any function like this, you could find critical numbers, right? So critical numbers are numbers where first derivative, which is f dash x, is either equal to 0 or does not exist, correct? So in this particular case, there are two critical numbers. So we call these numbers as n, let's say x is equals to minus 1 and x equals to half, right? Why? Because at these points we have a corner. So I'm not really doing a derivative, but explaining. So at these points, the derivative does not exist. At these points, derivative does not exist. So what you can find at this, we have two critical numbers. Now, of course, this function will not have absolute maximum. It is important to note that it will have only absolute minimum. Okay. Now, it will have only absolute minimum. Now, I've changed the question a bit because there are two critical numbers. Do you see that? So it may have another local minimum also. Maybe. You may have to check that. But anyway, for the time being, we are looking into these functions for absolute minimum. Okay. Let me write this. Okay. Now, to figure out which one is lower, find the value of the function at minus 1. We really found it. It is 3. And also find the value of the function at half, which we got as 1.5, and that gives us the result. Do you see that? So using calculus also, you could get the same result. However, I think it gives you a fairly good idea of how to approach such a question and solve. Feel free to write your comments and suggestions. If you like and subscribe, that'll be great. Thanks and all the best.